Hello and welcome to the Silver Citizen. I'll be talking all things Manchester City. This is the first video. If there's anything you want me to talk about, leave a comment in the section below, and I'll do a video about it. But this is about what I want the City team to kind of look like when the transfer window closes. Transfer window's open, everything's in full swing, rumour mills flying around, and this is kind of what I want from it. We'll start with the goalkeepers. Ederson, Stefan, Carson. I'd keep them all. Carson seems happy to be third choice goalkeeper, playing in nothing games, like the Newcastle game, like coming on as a token gesture against Sporting Lisbon when we were 5-0 up. These are things that have happened because everybody at the club loves him. He keeps the morale up. He's the joker of the pack. Everybody loves him. Everybody gets on with him. As long as he's happy to continue training, really, and be third choice keeper, then why not? If he wants to retire and he doesn't want to do it anymore, see if he wants to be a goalkeeping coach or something. I'd keep him around. Stefan, I'd keep Stefan. There is rumours flying around that Stefan might want to go on loan because of the World Cup, and the American manager has recently come out and said that if you want to be part of the American team in the World Cup, you're going to have to be playing football, or soccer as they call it. The number 2, I think, has recently just moved to Arsenal. Will he dislodge Aaron Ramsdale? I don't think so. But the third choice goalkeeper for America at the minute is being fought out between the goalkeeper at New York City and the goalkeeper at New England Revolution, and they are playing week in, week out, and they are doing quite well in their league. So, if Stefan thinks to himself, I won't be playing in the World Cup if all I'm doing is playing one game before the World Cup starts in November, which I think will be the Carabao Cup third round. I think the fourth round happens after the World Cup, and the quarterfinals like in January, isn't it? This year because of the World Cup. So if he wants to go on loan, I'd let him. I would have said Bazunu, but I think he's going to Southampton. I think he's 11 million, could rise to 15. So I'd let him go on loan if he wanted to go and play games and have a chance of playing for America and Qatar. I'd let him go on loan. And the games he would be playing, I'd bring in Kieran Slicker from the EDS. He's had a good season in the EDS. I think we could probably cope with him for 1 or 2 games. And if it's a game that, I don't know, Pep probably doesn't trust him enough, give Carson a go. I mean, if we lose the game, we lose the game. It's only going to be the 3rd and 4th round anyway of the Carabao Cup, I think, and if you're not going to win it, for me, better to go out sooner. Keep your players fit and fresh. Obviously you want to win it, but if you're not going to win it, what's the difference with being a beaten finalist and getting knocked out in the 3rd round? Besides the little bit of money that the club get, what's the difference? Nothing. So that for me is the goalkeeping situation. Ederson obviously is our number 1, the best goalkeeper we've got, and the way City play, he's the best goalkeeper in the world. I know my brother doesn't think he can use his hands, but we had 81 shots on target this season. He conceded 24, so he saved more than he let in. My brother kind of looks at things as, well, take Aston Villa for example. He had 2 shots on goal, 2 goals. I look at it, did he have a chance with either of them? I don't think he did. And I'm not going to get into the reasons why, because this isn't a video about Aston Villa. But anyway, that's how I'd have it. Ederson, Steffen and Carson as your goalkeepers. If Steffen wants to go out on loan, I'd let him. Bring Kieran Slicker in his place. Right backs, I don't think we need a right back. You got Walker that can play there, you got Cancelo that can play there, you got Stones that can play there as an emergency right back. It's not his position, but I don't think he's let the club down when he's been put in that right back position either. You know, Real Madrid, the one that I can think of off the top of my head. I know there's been more, but I can't really remember right now who those games were against. But I've never seen John Stones play at right back and think to myself, he didn't really do very well. He's obviously a better centre half, it's his position, but if you need him to fill in at right back, he's not going to let you down. He can play there. I'd also bring in Egan Ryler, CJ Egan Ryler. He's been a big part of City winning the EDS League title 2 years running. He's had a couple of games in the first team. I think it was Newcastle he came on against. He started in the Carabao Cup against Wickham. There was other games he played. It's another one I can't really remember who it was that we were playing off the top of my head. But I know he's had a few games. He's started one. I'm sure of it. Pep likes him. I like him. And I'd give him the opportunity. I'd put him in games throughout the season. Maybe Forest at home, I'd start him. Maybe Bournemouth or Fulham or someone like that. Carabao Cup. Bring him off the bench in other games. I wouldn't play him against the top 6, but I would bring him off the bench in a few games. Start him in a few games. So if it gets to a situation at the end of next year and we're faced with something like we had this year, Cancelo suspended, Walker injured, Stones coming in at right back at 60% and having to go off after half an hour because he's injured. You wouldn't feel like it's that big of a risk putting CJ Egan Ryler there because he's had the experience throughout the season. He's played men's football throughout the season. So it serves you well. For the left back, there's talk of Cucurella. Now, I would like Cucurella. But the rumour that came out this morning, and whether it's true or not, by the time I put this up, it won't be this morning, but whether it's true or not, I don't know. That City are willing to put McAtee as a loan, as a make-weight for Cucurella. If that's the case, I don't want him. I would love Cucurella. I think he's a fantastic left back. He's young. He's done excellent for Brighton. They also like to play football, so we know he can play like that. He's done well for him going forward. He's got a decent cross on him. I think he'd be a good buy. I think he'd fit into Pep's way. But if it means sending McAtee out on loan, then Brighton can keep him. And I'd turn my attentions to the young left back at Benfica, Alex Grimaldo or something like that. He's another one I like. I'd prefer Cucurella. I think Cucurella is a better left back. But you don't want to end up getting rid of McAtee, who could be the next Foden. The next person to come through the ranks and save us in the region of about 100 million in the transfer market. So I'd get him. I don't think we need a second left back. You've got Zinchenko that can play there. Nathan Ake can play there. Laporte can play there. And you've also got Wilson Esbrand, who, like CJ Egan-Riley at right back, has been a mainstay for the EDS, has been a big part of the EDS winning the league title 2 years running, defensively. And he's another one that shows promise. Whether he's going to live up to his potential, the only way to find out is by giving him games. And like CJ Egan-Riley, I wouldn't play them both in the same game, but those are the types of teams that I'd be playing him against. Bottom half of the table, relegation fighters, lower leagues, in cup games. Bring him off the bench, and you can have 5 subs. So if you're bringing him off the bench when City have already won the game, which is going to happen, it's going to happen. City score 4 and 5 goals regularly. It's not going to stop. Now we've got Ireland, probably going to increase, should I say. And that's 5 people that can play at left back, 4 people that can play at right back. So I'd get Cucurella or Grimaldi for the simple fact is, then we've got at least one natural left back with the experience of playing in Premier League, or with the experience of playing at the top level. Because Wilson Esbrand then is the only other natural left back, but he's not got the experience. And you don't know if he's going to live up to his potential. So that's the left back situation for me. As far as centre halves is concerned, I don't think we need one. Diaz, Ake, Laporte, Stones, I'd keep them all. Mbete, Luke Mbete, I'd bring him in. Same with Egan-Riley and Wilson Esbrand. Put him on in a few games. Maybe only start 1 Premier League match. Come off the bench in 3 or 4. Play in the Carabao Cup. If it's anything like the season that's just gone in the Champions League, and you win the first leg 5-0, you can probably afford to bring Mbete on for the second half in the second leg, when it's 0-0. And quietly confident that the other team won't score 5 goals in 45 minutes against us. You've also got Radrick that can play at centre half. Now obviously I don't want him playing at centre half because he's the only holding midfielder that we've got, and that's his best position. But like I said before, with the defensive situation we had this year, if you're having anything like that, and you want experience and you want someone that can do it and you don't want to have to rely on him better, you've got Radrick. Radrick can play there and have his position in the holding midfield filled up by Gundogan or Lavia. Anyway, that's for me the defence. I hope we get Cucurella. If it means getting rid of McAtee, I want us to go out and get Grimaldi. Moving on. Holding midfield, there's talk of Calvin Phillips. I don't want him. I really don't want him. Talk of 60 million is nowhere near worth that. I'd rather than bring Lavia through, if I'm honest. He's only going to do the Fernandinho role, what Fernandinho did last year. Come on to, shore things up. Another defensive player in the midfield, more bodies. And like I said, if Calvin Phillips comes he's going to start no more than 15 games in all competitions. Maybe even only 10. With, 10, 15 substitute appearances. Lavia can do the same job. Lavia's not going to be moaning about not being first choice. Lavia's not going to have such extravagant wage demands to want to be getting paid 150, 160 grand a week. Lavia's not going to cost you a penny because he's already here. Lavia's been here learning the Pep way for the last 2 years. So he doesn't need to get used to the way Pep plays. He doesn't need to get used to a new style of play. There's too many benefits of giving Lavia the chance. If he proves that he's good enough, you just saved you 60, 70 million in the transfer market. You just saved you millions in wages because he's not going to get that as much. If it doesn't work out, and he's started 10 to 15 games, he's come off the bench 10 to 15 times, you're going to get more money than him than you are right now. So if it doesn't work out and he's not good enough, you can always go and get an older midfielder next year. But Foden has shown that if you give these young lads a chance, they can prove it. Lavia deserves a chance, for me. If it gets to a point where Rodri's injured or suspended, and you don't want to rely on Lavia, or Pep doesn't want to rely on Lavia, you've also got Stones that can play in older midfield. You've got Gundogan that can play in midfield. Cancelo can play as an older midfielder. So you've got options. I don't think we need Calvin Phillips. Moving forward into the number 10s. On the left side, you got Bernardo, you got Phil Foden that can play there, you got Zinchenko that can play there if we had Cucurella or Grimaldo. You can move Zinchenko up into his natural position, which is what he plays for Ukraine. Grealish can even play there. So you've got options, as well as McAtee. The right, though, you've only really got Kevin De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan that are right-footed, playing that number 10 role, midfielders. Palmer can play there, and he's right-footed. And Palmer, by all intents and purposes of what I'm hearing and reading, is going to be more involved with the first team this year. And would have been more involved last year had he not got injured. He started against Everton. And he seems to be the next one in the line, behind Foden. But I think you also need someone with that bit of experience of playing first team football. Now, my first choice would be James Ward-Prowse from Southampton. He's right-footed. He's got experience of playing in the Premier League. I think he can play for Pep. He's a good footballer. He's 27, so he's got some good years ahead of him. And then you've got the added bonus of his set-piece deliveries, which is the best in the Premier League. Regardless of how many scouts will tell you it's Trent Alexander-Arnold, James Ward-Prowse is the best set-piece player in this league. So I'd rather City go and spend the money on James Ward-Prowse than Calvin Phillips, who I don't think we need as much. And I don't think he's as good as James Ward-Prowse, who also, if we got him, can play as an holding midfielder. He's played in that number 6 role a few times for Southampton and not looked out of place, so there's another person, if we were to get him, that could play in that holding midfield role if you didn't really want to rely on Lavia. You know, if you were playing Champions League semi-finals, say, and Pep thought, well, I don't really want to be relying on Lavia, and Rodri's suspended or Rodri's injured, and I don't want to risk him. You know, Gundogan's only 60% fit. I don't want to risk playing him. I need Cancelo for right back. I need Cancelo to play on the left. And also play there. And you can put James Ward-Prowse there, which is another reason that I would quite like James Ward-Prowse. If, for whatever reason, James Ward-Prowse doesn't want to come, thinks to himself, I'm at Southampton, I'm going to be playing, I've got a better chance of playing at the World Cup. I go to City, I'm going to be a squad player, I'm going to lose my chance. Southampton turn around and say, if you want him, you're going to have to pay 100 million. And City think, well, I'm not paying 100 million. Or, for whatever reason, it doesn't materialise. Other than City not actually making a bid. Then I'd probably go for Gavi, who had his breakthrough season at Barcelona. I know Barcelona didn't do very well this season, but I think they still ended second. I think Gavi was a tidy player. He's coming up for a contract renewal, and as we know the situation at Barcelona, they want all the players to take a pay cut. Gavi might not want to take a pay cut. Given the opportunity of also being coached by Pep Guardiola, we might be able to get him. If they're trying to get Bernardo as a make-weight, then I'd stay clear of that. But I think we'll probably get Gavi without having to give Bernardo as a make-weight to him. If, for whatever reason, we can't get Gavi, then I'd probably stick with what we've got. Calderon said it at the end of season preview. There's no point in just going and getting someone just to fill a gap. So I'd have 2 people, and that'd be it. If you didn't get any of them, make do with what you've got. But those are the 2, one or the other, that I'd want to get in the transfer market, either Ward-Prowse or Gavi. And as for left back, either Cucurella or Grimaldo. Moving forward, the front 3, down the middle, Haaland, he can't stop scoring, and Alvarez will play there. I'd also bring Liam Delap through. I think Delap would have broke into the first team last year had he not got COVID a couple of times, got injured. He had a bad time of it last year, so hopefully those times are behind him. Played a few times for the EDS at the end. He's still fit. Delap. As for the wide, on the left, I've got down here Zinchenko, Foden, Grealish, Alvarez, Jesus. Now, I know it's talk of Jesus being offered to every Tom, Dick and Harry in world football, but I'd keep him. For the right, Bernardo, Palmer, Alvarez, Jesus. Now, a few of you might be realising that there are a couple of names there that weren't mentioned. Sterling, Mahrez. I'd cash in on them both. I think Mahrez is, 30? Something like that. Got 1 year left on his contract. You don't want him to go for free. I think he's had 2 or 3 contracts put in front of him and he hasn't signed them. So I'd get rid. I'd get rid of Sterling as well. There's talk of Sterling willing to run down his contract. Well, if he wants to run down his contract, sticking with the EDS, he'll soon change his mind. You can play, I think it's 3 players over the age of 23 in the under-23s. If you're giving Sterling to the EDS and saying to Barra, his first name, the EDS manager, you're saying to him, don't play Sterling, just have him training with you. The EDS is for the kids to improve and get better. Sterling will soon change his mind and say, I want to go this year. So I'd do that as soon as I got back, turn around to Sterling and say, you're free to go. And he goes, oh, well, you know, I want to talk about my contracts, but I want to talk about it after the World Cup. And then piss off to the EDS. Excuse my French. Yes, that might leave you short with the wide. There are a couple of players that I would probably go to replace him with. There's talk of Leroy Sané. I wouldn't go back for him. He didn't want to be here. He wanted to go to Munich, and now suddenly he wants to leave Munich and come back to the city. No. As good of a player as he is, as good of a player as he was, he hasn't really improved at Munich. No. There's a young lad at Sociedad called Mikel Oyarzabal. I think that's how you pronounce his second name, Oyarzabal. I've seen a lot of him recently because obviously Merlin went to Sociedad, and when Sociedad are on TV, I've been watching him to watch Merlin, and this lad caught my eye. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play as a number 10. He's even been used through the middle as a false 9, which is another thing that Pep likes to play. And as a number 10. So anywhere really in that front 5 position he can play. So he's one I'd like to get. If, for whatever reason, that doesn't materialise, then Kingsley Coman, for me. He's at Bayern Munich. He's fell down the pecking order. Pep works with him at Bayern. And when Pep worked with him at Bayern, I think he had him on loan first at Juventus and then bought him. He was brilliant. Pep brought the best out of him. Now I think he's something like 4th or 5th choice. He's really fell down the pecking order. And you very rarely see him. He's like Isco at Real Madrid. So that for me is my hopes, shall we say, for the summer. I don't want us to get rid of McAtee on loan or sold. I hope we keep Jesus. As an all-round player, he's brilliant. As a goal scorer, maybe he's not as good. But Alvarez is. Haaland is. Delap. He will pop up with goals. He usually come in spurts with Jesus, but as an all-round player, his work ethic, the fact that he can play in any of the positions across the front 3, I'd keep him. And as far as Mahrez and Sterling are concerned, I'd get rid. I do hope we get Cucurella. If not, I hope we get Grimaldo. I'd rather go for Ward-Prowse than Calvin Phillips, and if we can't get Ward-Prowse, I'd go for Gava. And I'd like us to get Oyarzabal, and if that doesn't materialise, Kingsley Coman. So that for me is what I want. I'll come back here when anyone signs for City and give you my opinion on them. If anybody leaves City, I'll give you my opinion on the situation, how much we got for him, stuff like that. I'll give a mark out of 10 at the end of the transfer market of our transfer business. And everything Man City. But until anything happens, adios.